In 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 9. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 9, Paul writes, "Indeed, in our hearts we felt the sentence of death. But this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead." Now, you got to understand what Paul meant by this. Many times Paul was arrested, thrown into prison for preaching the gospel, simply for his freedom of speech. And any moment, in any time, he could have had the Roman government that said, you know, we're tired of arresting him. We're tired of throwing him into prison. He doesn't listen to us. He keeps preaching. He won't obey the laws. Maybe we just should sentence him to death, get rid of him. Later on, according to historians, Paul was sentenced to death in his old age, and he was beheaded in the city of Rome. So when Paul says, I have felt, in this case he's saying we, but let's just make it personal. I have felt this sentence of death. To Paul, it was real. He felt this. And in many of our lives, we also have some sort of feeling that something bad could happen to us at any moment. And maybe right now you're going through some struggles. You've heard a doctor's report, and immediately you're thinking that's the death sentence. The doctor said they can't do anything. Or maybe it's not as terrible as that. Perhaps your business is slowed up. You think you're going to have to close up your business, or you're going to lose your job. Things are tough. Or you're going through some very difficult marital or relational problems, and you're thinking it's over with. We won't be able to be together. Or maybe you're going through things with your kids or with your ministry. I don't know what you're going through. But Paul is going through his own crisis, and he says, in my heart, I have felt the sentence of death. I'm feeling like any moment the government could hit me and say, it's over. You're going to die. No more prison for you. It's now the guillotine. You're through. He's feeling this. And I guess this passage has meant a lot to me because last week, for some reason, I have been feeling this. I just this feeling that something, you know, you start to imagining the worst that could happen. And anybody ever imagine the worst? And in a sense, Paul is saying, this is what's happening to me. But then he says something, but this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God. Now, what is Paul saying here? I don't have any control over what the government does. They can sentence me to death, and how can I appeal? I mean, this is it. And what he's saying is, I'm feeling something that is beyond my control. I can't control the situation. And immediately, I think about us. How many of us are facing situations where we can't control it anymore? You can't control your children. They're old enough. They do what they want. They departed from the Lord, and you're thinking, I can't do anything. You can't do anything about the business slowing up or about being fired. You can't do anything about your spouse or your loved one that says they want out of the relationship. You can't do anything. It's like I'm out of control. I can't control my fate anymore. I can't control the situation. Anybody there? Where you feel like you can't control the situation anymore. And Paul says, I can't control this feeling of death. But then Paul thought, I know why. God's wanting me to recognize I don't control my fate. That there is a God that controls my fate. And Paul is realizing I'm going through this discouragement, this feeling that my life's going to end at any moment, because God is trying to wake me up that I don't control the government. I don't control the situation. But there is a God who controls it. So I'm saying, Paul is saying, this happens so that I quit trying to manipulate the situation. I quit trying to fix my own problem. Come on. Amen. Fix a problem I can't fix. Now, there's problems you can fix. But then there are things that are beyond your control. You cannot fix it. What do you do then? You got to forget about trying to fix something you can't control anymore. That's when you realize, God, here I'm trying to play you. I'm trying to fix things that only you can fix. No more of this. I rely on you. And I like what Paul says. This happened so that I might rely on God who raises the dead. You know what he's saying? Who cares if Rome pronounces a death sentence on me? I have a God who's going to raise me from the dead. See, in other words, God already got to me before the government could get to me. And basically, Paul is saying to Rome, listen to me. You think you can harm me by saying, I pronounce the death sentence. It's too late. God got to me, and he gave me eternal life before you can take my life. And since he gave me eternal life, he's promised to raise me up at the last day. So you can cut off my head, but my God is going to give me a new head and a new body, put it back together, and reunite me, my body with my spirit that's in heaven, so you cannot really take my life from me. Come on. And he's explaining. He's talking about this God who raises the dead. And here's the thing. We all face situations in our life. And I face things where I realize I can't control it anymore. It's out of my hands. I have people, well, Bishop, what are you going to do about this? Can't do nothing. What are you going to do about this and that? I can't do anything. It's out of my hands. And you know what? When something's out of your hands, say, Lord, there's no point to worry about it. I look to you. Because what's out of my hands is always in your hands. And I'm going to rely on you. See? Relying on him to fix the problem. Go to Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 11. There's something else that I think kind of relates to this. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. It says this, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. So what is faith? Faith is sure of what you hope for. Now, whoever hopes for something bad to happen? No one does. Well, I hope she leaves me. I hope I lose my job. I hope my business goes bankrupt. I hope I die of this cancer. I hope, no, you never hope for something bad. So listen, faith always hopes. Now, what is fear? Fear doesn't hope for anything bad, but fear can often expect something bad. Notice it didn't say faith expects. He could have used the word expect. Now, faith expects faith is being sure of what we expect. It's like I have a puppet skit that I do with Oliver. And I told Oliver is being negative. Nobody likes me. And he's not going to get this job. And I tell Oliver, quit being so negative. Be positive about that job. And Oliver replies back, all right, I'm positive I won't get the job. It works better if there's a puppet next to me. But you get the idea. Is being positive. It's just, I'm positive he's going to leave me. I'm positive I'm going bankrupt. I'm positive I'm not going to get recover. I'm positive. No. Hope, though. You never hope for something bad. You might expect something bad. You might fear that something bad will happen, but you never hope for it. So you know what faith is? Faith always hopes. Faith is confident of the things you want to happen, not what you fear is going to happen. And what Paul is saying is, I have been feeling in my heart this sentence of death on me. I've been feeling that the worst is going to happen to me. I sense this, but God has taught me. Rely on him. Put my faith in him, and faith hopes.